adult life, stepping in and out of many different roles, places, and moving across 3 continents and transitioning careers. These bits and pieces of my identity reattach and detach in really surprising ways, just as the component parts of my pieces. I view my work and my life experiences as a process of trying to make meaning of things that don't necessarily go together. I have conducted fMRI research, brain scan research, on a Fulbright scholarship in psychology in Italy, but I was also diagnosed with dyslexia in the 3rd grade and struggled with reading and written language. I've experienced the kinesthetic pleasure of moving across the stage as a classical ballet dancer, and I've also lived in Morocco teaching kids with learning disabilities. I am the child of Italian and Canadian immigrants, and I'm used to an ever-evolving notion of home. But recently, I had the good fortune of starting teaching at the first school that ever gave me a chance that college was possible. When you're looking at a strand of hair, you see a smooth, whole filament. However, when you look through a microscope, as I did with my father, who's a biologist many times, that same filament is segmented in this mass of detailed parts and structures. Through the process of amassing detailed parts, I see in my finished pieces both the whole thing and all the parts that create it. This journey enables me to appreciate both the macro and the micro simultaneously, reaching a really intuitive understanding of the whole work and its component parts. My process in my studio reflects this complexity. I refashion napkin doodles from 10 years ago. I'll break apart ceramic pieces that just have lost their vitality to me. And I reaccumulate these things and these fragments. I understand conceptual relationships through physical arrangement. Not being able to read until I was 10, I really imbued objects with more than meaning, with content. I would keep rocks and things to help me remember things that I needed to do, because written language was just such a challenge for me. And I continue to really see objects in that way. So I make sense by first finding and then arranging, so which object is next to another object, and then assigning the meaning through organization. Arranging fabricated and scavenged elements is a continual, ever-evolving process in my work. I really enjoy exploring a range of social, biological, and psychological processes that are the hidden scaffolding supporting the human mind, body, and how we are in society. And this directly ties to my past careers in psychology. I draw on my research background to give these diverse experiences a visual language. Recently, it's been things from the microbiome, but it's also been social networks. And I often create objects that depict something, not as tangible as like a heart or a tendon, but rather the feeling you have of those things, even though you've never been able to see them. Because I've always been interested in those scaffolds or structures that we can't see that support how we are in the world. I love the idea that I can take stock of reality and then add to that stock of reality by giving these intangible processes a physical and material presence. Prior to 2017, my work centered on what I would think of as like a post-apocalyptical, really opulent, someone called it neo-Rococo visual vocabulary. My largest solo exhibition was called Empire Falling. And in it, I explore the inherent tension in empires between expansion and deterioration, thinking of our fear of falling as kind of the embodiment of risk, thinking about how when we wake up at night with that kind of, oh my goodness, and you startle, it's called this haptic jerk, and biologists think it's from when we were in trees. So again, tying in my past research experience. But the recent work that I'm showing you, except for those 2 slides, are of a very turbulent 2016 and 17. The constraints of new motherhood and postgraduate life really affected how I approached work. And honestly, I debated mentioning motherhood on my practice because there's so many tropes and assumptions that are still kind of charging this discussion. But what I've really appreciated with past emerging artist presentations is that they open a space for diverse narratives and experiences and how these experiences connect to work or don't connect to work. But I was shocked when I became a parent that 30 years after the Guerrilla Girls, pariety in labor and art is still a thing that needs to be worked on. One half of MFA programs and the graduates are women, and yet 37% held tenured teaching positions, even less for Black and brown women. And so that's something I've become really engaged with. And as I said, it's really changed my work, these issues. Paid family leave. So before 2016, I really looked directly and intensely at images or ideas, following my natural inclination to just digest and understand, and honestly, thank you, grad school, almost neutralize my work, right? I got that feedback, which was really useful. After the birth of my son, I discovered that I actually make the work that I want to make when commitments limit my ability to directly focus on my studio practice. The chaos of a complicated life enables me to capture those peripheral moments, and I've learned to accept greater indeterminacy, partly because you don't really have a choice. What started as an effort to adjust my approach to the realities of being a new parent has led to new artistic collaborations and a realization of the importance of supportive social networks to a vibrant, socially engaged practice. This is an image of a collaborative build. My recent work explores how strong networks develop through small sculptural work and collaborative builds. Every individual is part of a larger community that has a diverse ecology of its own. And similarly, every person contains inside them a thriving ecosystem, gut bacteria that has a deep influence on how we think, behave, and even act. So whether we're looking at the microbiota in our stomachs, or at the individuals in a local community, a healthy ecosystem is one with a rich diversity of members. And it really shouldn't be a political statement to say that, but unfortunately, in this current climate, it is. As a result of all these changes in my practice, my colors have become more vivid, my shapes more ridiculous. I do say that I like stupid shapes. I don't know if I can use that word. The material is more playful and experimental, including the addition of wire, string. I do like playing with things that look like wire or not wire. They're actually ceramic, etc. And laser cut and 3D printed forms. I'm adding those to my ceramic components. I refire many times, in addition of layering underglazes and not shying away from paints or spray paints on surfaces. I want my work to be brazenly happy and hopeful. It is a political act to be hopeful, to envision a future where broken pieces are put together. In a time where I'm so concerned about how social policy changes affect my students, my family, and others, I'm committed to being engaged and aggressively, militantly hopeful, a social and political act to be positive about the needed changes that I still think are possible. Thank you.